Rob Butler. BBC Radio Norfolk.
Time for our next guest, and we're going to talk to someone who knows a lot about film. Shelby Cooke is part of the Film East crew, and Shelby, you're joining us all the way from America. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm very good. Whereabouts in America are you?
I'm in Delaware, so just on the East Coast, right in a nice little beach town.
Very nice. Is that where you got the accent, so are you originally from there, or...?
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, but
Right.
Yeah, Delaware is sort of where I'm residing now.
And you obviously live in Norfolk as a rule, and you're over in America for a short time. I'm not just being nosy, really. This isn't relevant to what we're going to talk about, but...
No, I went to UEA, so I did my master's at UEA, and that's how I sort of got involved with Film East and all of that. So I'm hoping to get back over there soon.
Cool, we'd love to have you back. Right, now tell us all about Film East, because I've been looking on the website. It looks so interesting.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so Film East, we're essentially a young film programmers group. So essentially what we do is we put out films for people to watch. Our sort of motto is that we want young people between the ages of 16 and 30 to be able to watch more challenging films and think more critically about how films affect us and how it comments on our culture and society and things like that. And so our essential goal is to get films out there for people to watch and to experience new films and all of that. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. But obviously at the moment, a lot of the cinemas obviously were closed. So we're getting back onto the programming route. But then while COVID was going on, we started a film website. So what we do now is we are looking for a lot of young writers who are interested in writing about film critically to be able to write for us. So we do a lot of like long form articles about analysis and things like that that will really help both the reader and the writer to think more critically about how film and entertainment sort of function in our society.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, I'm just looking at the last couple of events you've done in July. You showed a Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, I never know how to pronounce it, classic, My Neighbour Totoro. We were talking about Spirited Away the other day, which we all agree is a masterpiece, and that's another film from the stable there. You also did a Film Locations Masterclass, both those done online. The Film Locations Masterclass sounds really interesting. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so that was those events were part of the Young Norfolk Arts Festival. So we were asked to program a couple events for that. Obviously, that was all done online, which it was originally supposed to be in person, but because of COVID, everything has changed. But yeah, the masterclass was with Kristen Buxton, who is very much a big supporter of filming in Norfolk. So majority of the films that he works on, they shoot in Norfolk. He talked to us about Joanna Hogg's film, The Souvenir, and some of the other films that he's worked on as the locations manager, and how those films, how you sort of get about into working in film locations and how Norfolk sort of became part of this, the film culture, and how it's used on screen to transform into different areas around the world.
And it's a great website. I'm just looking through, and you kind of recommend films, and I guess it's recommending it to younger viewers to inspire a new generation. And the 380s classics that you recommended are probably my three. Well, Back to the Future is my favourite ever film. The Goonies is just an absolute classic, and probably my second favourite ever film is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So, you know, I'm an 80s film fanatic, but these are great films that you're recommending for young people to watch. Because how good would it be if this next generation of filmmakers that come through it, and certainly here in the East, look to the likes of John Hughes and Bob Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg to make films in that era, because, you know, I'm sure you love your 80s films as well. That was one of the best eras for movies, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So every Friday we, on our Instagram, put out what we call Film East Recommends. And the 80s one was done by one of our other programmers, Neve Brooke. She's currently a UEA student studying film, and she loves that era of 80s film. So so what we're really trying to do is get young people more engaged with cinema on a critical level. So, you know, obviously there are, you know, a lot of people love the Avengers and those more big blockbusters, but we want to sort of support more independent, more classic films and things like that, and get people really engaged with those older films that really have such a big part on our culture and our society and the way that we see art. And like you said, the 80s films were a massive part of building up film history. So being able to engage with things like that. And like I grew up on Back to the Future. That was one of my favorite films. The whole trilogy was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. That's what we really love to do, is to get people, be able to find a film that they love.
I'm interested to hear what you think about what Martin Scorsese said recently. Probably one of the all-time great movie makers. He said that, you mentioned Avengers and the Marvel films and all that. He said it's not cinema. Now I love the Avengers films. I love the Marvel universe and all that. But I can kind of see his point. What do you think about that?
I think everyone has their own tastes, and I particularly love British cinema, so that's one of my favorite forms of cinema. And some people might really find a lot of solace and ideas in, the Avenger movie. So it's really just based on what your tastes are. I don't necessarily. They are definitely a form of cinema that's sort of, blocking out the ability to get to more art house films and more challenging films. But a lot of the times it's these type of films that are keeping the industry afloat. And something like that, you can very easily look at the Avengers from a critical perspective. I mean, you can, talk about how Captain America is used as a form of, American ideology and how it represents American culture and this sort of big patriotism within American society. So, I mean, a lot of these films, I think a lot of people don't give them credit for, they just say that they're mass entertainment, where they can actually be quite critical and you can think about them. I mean, the superhero comics were invented after the Second World War in order to bring up morale in people. So you can definitely look to see, why are these films so popular now? Like, what kind of morale is it trying to bring up? So I do agree. I am very staunchly against the Avengers movies, just because I like independent cinema and I like cinema that's very challenging, but I don't think you should ever discourage someone for their taste, because everyone has their own taste.
Yeah, I agree, and I like all film. There's not a genre I don't like, really, and I would say lots of people watched The Irishman, which is Scorsese's latest film, and didn't really like it. I've got to admit, it wasn't my favourite Scorsese film. It went on a bit, and it was good, and it had some brilliant stuff in it, but it did go on a bit, and I'm thinking I much preferred the latest Avengers films to that. So I'm sure he's not listening, Mr. Scorsese, but I think there's room for it. It'd be very I mean, good if he is, but it'd be very weird. Yeah. So with Film East, in kind of normal times, I guess what you try and do is screen films locally. I know you did. We're going back to sort of February. You showed Pain and Glory at the Discord Hall, which is a lovely little venue. I've been there many times. You showed a brilliant film called Babylon, which is a real eye opener from back in the early 80s. That was shown at the Theatre Royal. So I guess the Film East are really gagging to get back to actually showing films where you can get your bum sat down and watch them in where you should be watching them.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually had a Zoom call the other day, and we were talking about what the next move is. So, I don't think anything's confirmed at the moment, but yeah, we're definitely looking at getting back into the cinemas in the fall. Or the autumn, sorry. But yeah, getting more people out there. There's, the government's putting a lot of things forward in order to get the cinemas back together, and there's a lot of relief funds and things like that, and in order to get these art house cinemas back up and running. So obviously that's something that we really want to support. So we're quite keen to get back on there.
Yeah, and it's a shame, isn't it? Because I kind of, the cinemas are open again now. We all have to wear masks and sit apart, which is fine. Everyone can accept that. But the real problem is that I looked sort of online. Used to look in the newspaper, but you have to look online now to what's on at the local cinema. There's a real backlog now of no films coming out, isn't there? I mean, there's just nothing. I think Nolan's big new release is coming fairly soon, but that's kind of the tentpole release of the summer. But there's not a lot else happening, and that's a shame, because I'm one of those people that loves to go to the cinema a couple of times a month just to see something perhaps that I wouldn't necessarily thought to see, and thought, I'll give something else a go. So we're missing it, aren't we, us cinema fans?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is quite a weird year for cinema, because there's probably been, I've been following, a lot of people are talking about the Oscars, and it's like Trolls on Tour is going to get an Oscar nomination because there's just no movies out. But so yeah, it is a weird year, but I mean, what's quite exciting about what they're doing is they're bringing a lot of, classic films back into the cinemas, and trying to get a lot of people in on films that they love. So bringing in, we were talking about the Twilight Saga. They have that one in the relief bill that they were talking about for a discounted to show the Twilight films. which us at Filmies we were so excited about because we love Twilight. But
yeah.
But yeah, getting people to see, and that's a great opportunity to see some of your favorite films on screen that you probably would have never been able to see.
I noticed Empire Strikes Back's been on at the cinema, and I'm sure Back to the Future will be shown somewhere. And to see that, I have seen it on the big screen actually. It's been obviously put out there a few times, so to experience it, and I saw it originally when it came out back in the day when I was a small boy. Me and my dad went, and my dad said that was good because I didn't fall asleep. That was his review of Back to the Future, so even he liked it. But the point of, we talked about it a lot on this show, Shelby, how Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus and all that, it's all well and good, but it's not the same as going to the cinema with your popcorn and your drink and all that. That's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I last year went to Cinema City to see The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is with David Bowie, and it's absolutely my favorite film of all time. And I have obviously seen it on my, sitting and watching it on my laptop is one thing, and then seeing it on the big screen was just so incredible. And I was just like, oh, this is why you love cinema, because being able to sit there and watch this incredible film that you already have such a fondness for, and that's just the power of cinema. That's what's so incredible about it. Yeah.
What do you make of British film? Because we've talked a lot about British film. We have our film review Eve Hill on a Wednesday night, and I was telling her about Billy Elliot, and she hadn't seen it, and then obviously she saw it and loved it. I know Sophie, our producer, a huge fan of that film. So that for me is probably one of the best British films. Gritty, and it went over well in America because it's just such a great story. How do you perceive British cinema at the moment? Is it in a good place? Is it in a bad place?
Well, I love British cinema, so that's what I study. That's sort of my area of expertise is British cinema. That's why I went to UEA, because they have a big research on British cinema. So I'll always say that British cinema is great because that's my favorite type of cinema. But yeah, I definitely think, it is struggling trying to find its place at the current moment in terms of making sense. But I always find so much solace in British cinema. I don't know why, but it's always just something that so relates to me, and the social realist drama is really something that's really put British cinema on the map. I write about that a lot, sort of the costume dramas and the social realist films, and there's always just something so beautiful and gorgeous about a British film that you can't really get in American cinema, which is why I love it so much. So I'll always be a big champion of British cinema.
Good. I mean, Billy Elliot's a good example. I know it's the Local Heroes, another one that you've shown as well, which is a real classic as well, and I think that did quite well in America. Do they kind of get? I mean, Billy Elliot's a good example. Do they get it? Do they get the gritty working man's club and the miners' strikes? I guess it's if a film's well made like Billy Elliot is and really well put together, they will get it because the story's told. But I'm just always interested to hear because we us Brits. We watch an American film, we know kind of what goes on, and we get what, diners and old cars and what have you. But I'm always interested to hear what Americans think of certain British traditional things. They must just look at it and go, what's a working man's club? This is a bit weird. But I guess there's similar things over there, and it's just a case of kind of matching it up.
Yeah, I think most Americans just think that being British is like being in Downton Abbey. I think everyone just thinks everyone's just really posh and lives in estate homes. So, I mean, that's pretty much what we get over here is the costume dramas. Those are sort of the bigger ones. But yeah, not really too many of the working class films get big releases. Obviously, Billy Elliot was a big release because the musical was quite big when it came to Broadway. But yeah, so I think a lot of people just think that Britain is just like Downton Abbey or Sherlock Holmes. Which is, fair enough. I mean, it's not, it's not true, but,
It's not like Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes, more like the Benedict Cumberbatch one. That's much better, isn't it? The BBC one. Much, much better. Yeah, that's great. It's just always interests me. And the thing I love about America when I go over, I obviously love America, and I always go to the cinema when I'm there. I know it sounds a bit weird when you're on holiday, but I love going.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, but I love American cinema. It's so different, isn't it? Because there's all these great candies you can buy, and you can literally. We were talking about it the other day. You can get popcorn where they actually pour butter on it, which is incredible. I'm like, what? That's a heart attack I'm looking at there. But I went to one cinema in Orlando where you could actually, like, they probably have them in England, in London or whatever, but you could kind of stretch out and almost like lay down, and you have like table service. And what I love about it is I talked about it the other day. I watched Joker when I was at the end of last year, which is a brilliant film, and everyone was clapping and cheering, and audiences are a bit more animated in America, aren't they?
Yeah, we the other day, me and my mom watched the Hamilton on Disney Plus, and we were both sitting there cheering with them. We're like, I was like, oh my gosh, if we were in like England right now, like everyone would be staring at us because we were so loud. But so we're definitely a lot more vocal in America. We do, like we're quite enthusiastic, but. Yeah, I mean, it is a great experience when you get to go, especially with those like big like Marvel films again. When you have all the fans there and everyone's really into the fandom and into the series and things like that. People do get really excited about going to the cinema. And that is also a really great sort of cinematic experience. Another great reason to go to the cinema.
It doesn't get more American than when Captain America says "Avengers assemble." That's like I'm sure everyone cheered. In Britain, everyone was just like, "What did he say?" Like that. They sort of missed. Oh, hang on, I was eating my popcorn. Sorry. Anyway, been absolutely brilliant to talk to you, Shelby. Thank you ever so much for coming on. Just give your website a plug so people can check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is film-east.com. And we do encourage people to reach out to us if you're interested in writing about film. And then also, if you are interested in becoming a film programmer, our memberships are open, so you're more than welcome to come and join us as well if you're in between the ages of 16 and 30. We'd love to hear from you no matter what. We're very friendly. We'd be happy to have you. So just contact us on contactfilmeast@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you.
Awesome. Well, because we're both huge fans of this film, we want to educate more young people to check out Back to the Future from 1985. So I'm going to play Huey Lewis in the News. All right, Shelby, thanks for joining us.
Bye. Have a good one.